up, y'all? Every time my song comes out, I'm just like, I don't even know if I want to get on video because I'm just dancing. Hey guys, how are you? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. And as you know, we are here to discuss real things to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. Now, one of the great things I do is I go around this beautiful planet of ours and I try to find the best people on it to come on here and talk to us and just like expand the way we think and do things. I found Jill. Jill is an entrepreneur, an author, a founder, and the CEO of Frox, which is a women's lifestyle boutique. She inspires women through fashion, both in her boutique and online, and the author of Behind the Button. Don't you love that name? I love that freaking name. So she's traveling the country with her message of empowerment, body acceptance, educating and inspiring women to live in their passion. Jill Strickland, welcome to Straight Talk. I'm so glad to have you. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to be on. I love meeting you. And yes, everything you said is absolutely my passion, is to help women feel amazing about themselves. Yeah.
That's so good, because it was for, you've been in the fashion industry for a very long time. And I do want to get to know you a little bit more. And I think it's something so beautiful about what you're doing as well, because for a long time, there's been a lot of shame in the fashion industry, especially for women. You're not thin enough, you're not tall enough, you're not whatever enough, right? So it's good that we have turned that corner. I feel like we have anyway. I've seen more body positivity out there, more people really just loving who they are. So Jill, before we get into all that phenomenalness, I do want to know a little bit more about you. So who is Jill Strickland? Tell us about you.
Good question. I don't love talking about myself, but obviously on this book tour and everything, I talk about myself. But I would say Jill Strickland Brown, actually, it's Jill Strickland Brown, is a hard worker, a lot of tenacity, a lot of resilience. Jill Strickland Brown has been through, life's challenges. And as we talk about in the book, we talk about life's challenges being equated to a dye bath. So within the book and within my life, fashion has always been the filter. So I would say, the clothing is great. It's a connector, and we'll talk about that. But I would say Jill Strickland Brown, tenacious, resilient, and really working on that enough thing. And as I can, and I'm a connector. I would say a connector is a
awesome.
Good question, or good. That is
quality.
A good question, but the quality, I think, is what is my strength. Is
That's
connecting.
awesome. Yeah, connecting is powerful, right? Because you really, I feel like I'm somewhat of a connector myself. I love connecting humans to humans. I think it's a beautiful thing to do. And it expands your network. It expands your value to people, right? Because then people remember, oh, Jill introduced us, and that was an important piece. And a lot of people take that for granted, but I think that's super powerful. Yeah. I love that.
I love it. And actually, the button is a connector. So that's really cool too. I love that. It connects the two fabrics together. So
that's amazing.
The button is a really big deal in my world. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about that, because, you said you have a lot of resilience and you've been through some things, and you don't have to get into too much that you don't want to, but I'd love to know a little bit about that. Like, what do you mean when you say that?
Well, part of the book is I wrote the book myself just for therapy to, get rid of all that childhood stuff and, all the stuff that we carry around for us for years. And we curate what we tell people on, social media, and we all have that little, we're Teflon and, what the world sees. But what happened to me is when I started sharing my story, and women are vulnerable in the fitting room, we start to share ourselves when we're in that safe space, which I have in the fitting room. It's a safe space. And when you feel good and you feel connected and you feel empowered, then you feel okay to be vulnerable and share your story. And then when I shared my story and they share their story, we realize we're all connected and that we all have stuff, we all have our childhood stuff. We all have, marriages that are tricky, or kids that are tricky, or whatever it is. And those are lifestyle baths. So I think that's, there are definitely two themes to my book and to my life, which is empowering women, making them feel great, but also allowing them to be vulnerable as well, which is empowering
Yeah.
as well. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That's a very powerful tool to help women with, because
yeah.
it is something very powerful about being vulnerable. It's something very powerful
Hmm.
about being truthful about what you've gone through, and
Hmm.
exposing, I call it exposing the enemy, like
Yes.
the enemy of your
Oh,
past. It's just
yes.
exposing it.
Yeah.
And it just makes you super strong. And so I'm glad you do that. I'm really
Yeah.
curious though, how did you blend fashion, right?
Hmm.
And how did you do that? How did you blend that fashion with also encouraging and stories? Like how did that come about?
Yeah. Well, that's a really good, you have really good questions. I
Thank you.
like, I would say, I always say story, my byline is stories that thread us together. And how I
Love
brought the
that.
two, I feel like you can buy a shirt anywhere.
Mm,
You can go to a store, you can department store, you can go online. To me, the clothing was always the connector. It was never about the clothing. It was always about how I made them feel. And then realizing that, we all have, like I said, our challenges, but also within our body,
yeah.
I've never, in the 20 years that I have been standing in front of that mirror, there has never been a woman that comes out and just like, I am amazing and everything on my body is fabulous. Never has
Right.
happened. There's
Right.
always my boobs, my belly, my butt, my whatever it is. And
Mm,
so the two definitely come together, the vulnerability, the empowerment, the clothing. And also, I say you almost fake it till you make it, or fake it till
mm-hmm.
you become it. And so the clothing gives them the confidence to go out into the world and be, better mommy, better wife, better in the community, because she
Mm-hmm.
can go out and do what she wants to do to better the world and make an impact when she doesn't have to worry about her clothing and she has the confidence. I call it the power of clothing.
And I'm not really into or know too much about fashion. I shouldn't say I'm not into it. I
Mm.
just don't know too much about it, right? But the
Mhm.
thing is I do know what makes me feel good and what
Mhm.
doesn't make me feel good. It's
You
it's a
got it.
powerful thing.
Yep.
Clothing is a very powerful thing. Like, I
Mhm.
know when I'm going into that really amazing business meeting that I have to attend, my
Mhm.
suit looks tight, my hair looks good. Like,
Right.
it really does do something to your psyche. It really does.
It
Like, when
does.
I'm running out and I just want to go grab some dog food or something, and I throw on like my sweats and my t-shirt, there's a completely different feel.
Vibe.
Completely different feel.
You
Yeah,
got it.
completely
Yep.
different vibe.
Yep.
So, how did you start getting into the fashion industry? What was that part of your journey?
So right from the beginning, in my childhood, I always loved fashion. I would look through the magazines. I had three older sisters, so I would, they would go on dates, and I'd be like, "Well, if you want another date, you might want to dress, you might
That's
want to dress this
funny.
way or something." And so it was always in me as a kid, and I used to shop at like funky little stores and boutiques. The minute I got a paycheck, because for me as a kid, my clothing was my self-expression, and it was a
Mm,
way that I brought out my personality, and also wanted to be different, and I wanted to show who I was through my clothing. So that was
mhm.
important as a childhood. And then my first job I got in a clothing manufacturer, which was a garment dye manufacturer. So what they did is they would take fabric, immerse it in scalding hot water, and then when it came out of the dye bath, it would be more beautiful and more textured
Oh.
and rich in color. So that's actually, again, what I equate in the book to life. We all go in, into our challenges, and we come out of those dye baths beautiful with stretch marks
Mm,
and wrinkles, and but we come out stronger and
right.
better when we
That's
come out
so
of that dye
cool.
bath, when we come out of life's dye baths. Yeah.
That is so cool, because you also come out more colorful, don't you? I mean,
You
Jill,
do.
the older I got, the more colorful I have gotten, let me tell you.
I
in
love
many
it.
areas. I'm like, whoo, when I'm 80, I'm in trouble. People are in trouble when I'm 80.
Yeah,
Because if
yeah.
I am this much of a straight talker at 50, when I'm 80, they're in trouble. I'm going to be colorful. Anyway,
I
that's so
love it.
amazing. So
Yeah.
what then, so then you got into fashion. This is something that you really loved and you started to get passionate about that. So where did that culminate with the women? Like, like really saying, you know what? This is important. This is something I have to focus on is women in fashion and body
Yep.
image and how they feel. What was that about?
So when I worked at the manufacturer, I went to my first trade show. My bosses said, "Hey, we forgot the samples. We're up in New York doing a trade show. Can you bring the samples up?" And I was customer service, just sitting at my phone, and I'm like, "Sure." Let me figure out. I was, in my 20s, really hadn't gone to New York a lot. Said, "How in the world do I get up to New York?" So I was like, "All right." I went to the dye house. I grabbed sweaters. I threw them in a hockey bag. I jumped on a bus because there are no tracks out in Pennsylvania.
You're
So
right.
there are no tracks. So got on a bus, got myself there, and they said, "Well, we have a second set of hands. So you know what? Go stand behind the girl that sells the sweaters. And when she drops them on the floor, pick them up and put them on the shelf." I'm like, "I can do that." And then I started listening to what she said. And I was like, "I can do that." So they're like, "Wow, you're really
Mm,
good." So I started repping the line. I became I sold about $1 million of their line through the mid Atlantic. So Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, DC, Maryland. And then along the way, I met these amazing, strong entrepreneurs of women that I met. And I was like, "I want to be one of you. Yeah, I want to be
right.
you."
That's so
And
cool.
these women were amazing and they were mentors. And I said, "This is it." And I found my passion and my calling. And
Wow, that's
20 years
awesome.
later, here we are.
Yeah, and where are we? Like when you say here we are, what is it that you're doing now with that, right? Because you're obviously
Okay.
not picking up sweaters from the floor anymore, right?
I
You're
am
not doing
not.
that. So,
Actually, I kind of
Yeah,
still
oh well, yes, of course,
do. In
right,
the
of
fitting
course.
room. No,
That's
I'm kidding.
forever, right? So tell me about what you're doing now. Like, what are you doing now with your shop, and where does that
Mhm,
look like? And give
mhm.
me all of that.
So it's funny. As much as things change, some things stay the
Yeah,
same. So
yeah.
always, every time I deviate, every time I say, "Oh, we should get, this line or that line, or we should do this or that," at the end of the day, what works is what we was in our DNA. What we did
Mm,
20 years
mm,
ago is still it's still what works best. But things have changed. Technology, especially with COVID, you can see we're talking over a computer. So, so people are getting used to Zooms and people are getting used
yeah.
to those things. So we do something on Facebook, which is called a Facebook Live. And we are crazy and we, we laugh and we talk and we sing and we show clothing and
Oh, that's
people
cool.
connect and they
Yeah.
comment and you can tune in from anywhere in the world. So we have people all over the country just tuning in and loving what we're doing, and you can buy right there. You can go on our website. We have an app.
I
So
love
we have
that.
ways that if you can't make it to little Perkasie, Pennsylvania, you can still interact with us, still have fun, comment, and we have a blast. So that's been a huge part of a change. And then the book tour, that's
Yeah.
connecting with all these amazing authors.
Yeah.
And then these women, and I've been asked to go on many podcasts to speak. And that blows me away. I just thought I would be in my little boutique forever, just helping women. But again, I think God or the universe takes you in a place
Yeah.
that you never expect,
Isn't
so
it awesome? Yeah.
yeah,
Life is so beautiful when you sit back and you look at the journey because it
yeah.
literally just takes one step, just one step. Just take the first step. The
Hmm.
second step will come, then the third step will come. And then
You
before you
got
know
it.
it, you're doing everything you're doing, right? That's
Yep.
so fun. That sounds like a lot of fun. The Facebook
Oh, I have a
Live.
blast.
Yeah.
Yes.
When is
And
that?
if you don't laugh every day, then
Yeah.
what's the point? You know,
Yeah.
you got to
Yeah.
laugh
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
So the podcast, oh, I'm sorry. I don't have a
The live.
podcast. You do the live. It's this late night. You're killing me. um, our live, we do a Facebook live. We do a preview on Wednesday, just showing them what's to come, getting them
That's so
excited. And
fun.
then on Thursday, we do it at 3:00. We were doing it at night, but we found with, this new world we're living in, people are hilarious. They are working from home. They want a little break. A lot of them are like, I'm on a conference call. I have
Right.
you on mute, but I'm seeing all these things. And then they'll direct message me or comment like, hold that sweater for me. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's
it's
so
been,
fun.
really fun. And we really are working on, and I think we've done it, is having that experience that, people get when they come in the store online or through a Zoom.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
really been working.
How are
Yeah.
you finding that with the having the boutique and being online? Are you finding that are you still getting the customers coming in through the door, or is it more?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
So
Good
my
to hear.
gals that are local will
Mhm.
watch it, and then either they buy it because they know that, they
It's
want to
gonna be
save it for
gone.
themselves.
Yeah.
You got it. Or they come in and say, "Oh, you have so many cute things," so those are
Yeah.
my local girls. But, speaking on all these podcasts, people want to come to the shop and they can't. So,
Right.
so it's
Fun.
really a hybrid.
Yeah, which is great,
Yeah.
right? Because it's an audience that you probably wouldn't have reached otherwise if we didn't
Mm-mm.
have all this technology stuff. Because this is
Yeah.
good and bad, right? Sometimes this stuff gets, ugh. But a lot of times you realize, like me and you, Jill, we wouldn't have met
Yeah.
any other way, really. I
No.
don't think, right? So
No.
I mean, we're both in the East Coast, which is good, So I'm
Mhm.
gonna have to like make a pit stop down here and see. Are you still in Pennsylvania? Is your shop
Yes,
still
yep,
there?
yep.
Yeah.
I'm in Perkasie. It's in between Philadelphia and New York. It's Bucks County, if you're familiar
Oh,
at all. Yeah,
fun,
yeah.
fun.
So
So now I want to touch on this behind the button,
okay.
right? Because this is your baby now. This is your
Mhm,
your other project and it sounds to me like a real labor of love,
mhm,
and
mhm.
maybe even a little cathartic for you, right? Writing this amazing book.
Very
So
much so. Yeah.
yeah, I
I
bet
did
so.
not expect this book to resonate with so many people. I absolutely wrote it to get those stories out, those stories we tell, and I
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
telling those same stories for 50 years. And I'm like, I am done telling those stories. I'm tired of those stories, taking the armor off because the armor
Yeah,
gets
yeah,
really heavy. So
yeah,
taking that off, and so many things that I never expected happened. So, telling your story. Boy, is that vulnerable.
yeah,
All your oozy stuff is out. And then being at a Barnes and Noble and telling a story, or being somewhere and telling a story, and a complete stranger says, yeah, I know it's in the book. And you're like, ooh, ooh,
yeah, yeah.
like,
Fun, right?
oh, you know me before you know me. That's really
Yeah,
weird.
that's so
But
neat.
it's great. And then, again, it inspires other people, because I talk about my journey in fashion. That's what it really is. And, going and living your passion and being
Hmm.
tenacious and
Hmm.
resilient. So many people have read the book, said, you've inspired me to go do that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's been a really strong message, is let me go live my passion. Let me go do
Yeah.
it. And even though it's hard work and tough, I'm going to do it. So that's
Yeah.
been a really cool thing that I didn't expect it to resonate with so many people. Yeah.
It's funny because you're like, you get so sick and tired of telling your story. And I totally understand that too. And I realize, at least this is the like epiphany, if you will, that I got when I wrote my autobiography, is that my
Yeah.
story doesn't even belong to me anymore. My story is for
Mm,
others. It's not
mm,
even for us anymore. I think that's why we get to a
mm,
point where we start to heal through the book and we start to heal through the things that in our lives. And then we realize, almost like you feel a little even disconnected to that previous person because you're not that person anymore.
mm,
And I realized that the book was written for others, because it was others who were coming to me. And it sounds like that's what people were doing with you, where they
mm,
say, wow, this book spoke to me because this book did this to me because.
mhm.
And then you realize, oh, that's why I went through all I've went through. That's why I'm
Yes.
writing the book. Right.
Yes, and
Isn't
having
that powerful?
faith, and
Yeah.
yes, when people say you're exactly where you're supposed to be, or everything happens for a reason, sometimes you believe that. But
Right.
when, like you said, you wrote your book and I wrote mine, I guess, yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
realize how strong I am unless I had been through all that. Yeah.
Right. Right. Which goes back to what you said before, right? That you're very, like, when you described yourself, you said you're very resilient. Right. And so writing your book, I'm sure, gave you that, that perspective too, because you got to see, wow, hold on a second. I've actually been through quite a bit.
Hmm.
I forgot about that, or I forgot
You
about this. Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what happened. Because we all go and just live our life. We don't
Right.
really think about that stuff.
Right.
And then when you put it on paper, you're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, on the flip side, the positive side is I was like, "Wow, that was pretty cool."
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
some really cool things, and I'm
Really
like,
cool
"I
things.
forgot
Yeah.
about that because the people pleaser in me, the not enough person in me is always like, the next
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
probably get that too. People are like, wow, you have a podcast, you do this, you do that. People are like, wow, you have a store for 20 years. Yeah, you wrote a book. And you're like, yeah, okay.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
The
on to
funny
the
thing
next
is,
thing.
though, Jill, right? The funny thing is that when you started the boutique, it wasn't, you were probably scared. You
Oh,
know what I'm
oh,
saying?
oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, scared, didn't know if people would accept me. I didn't know if people would like what I had. Again, I was a sales rep. I wasn't a store owner. I didn't know anything about retail. I
Right.
thought I
Right.
did, but I
Right.
didn't. There was a huge learning curve. And I have
I
to be
bet.
honest, I'm still learning. 20 years
Right.
later, I'm still
Oh, yeah.
learning every day. So,
Yeah.
yeah, scared to death. Yes. And they say if it doesn't scare you to death, then you're not doing the right thing. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're not dreaming
Yeah.
big enough, right?
Right,
And the
exactly.
cool thing is, you know, um, but that's inspiring too, because I think, because my podcast is consisted of about 65% women listen to my podcast. Men,
Yes.
I love you too. I know you listen. So I know you listen. And here's the thing about these amazing people that listen to the podcast is a lot of them are entrepreneurs, or, very high professional, but high
Mhm,
achieving professionals. And a lot of them are shifting now. They're wanting to get out of those roles and into maybe their own thing. I love that you said, yes, I was scared to death, but you're doing it 20 years now and you're still learning. And that's a big message that I want people who are listening to also take away. You don't have to know it all when you're starting
mhm,
something,
mhm,
and do it afraid. Just
mhm,
do it afraid, because a lot
mhm,
of us get so fearful, we overthink it. And then before you know it, the times are past, things are past, and you're still wanting, wishing, longing, but
mhm,
haven't done anything about it, right? Like what you said earlier about your book. I've been talking about my story for so many years. Finally, I just had to put it in a book, right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
it's this thing of our hesitation sometimes of doing things in our life. I love that you shared that, because I
Yeah.
want people to take away that inspiration, that you just do it afraid, be smart about it, of course, but do it anyway, right?
I tell my girls all the time because 'cause they're nervous. They're like, "I don't wanna do it wrong. I don't,"
Yeah.
and I say, "It's better done than perfect. It's better
Yeah.
done than perfect,"
Yeah.
so just
That's
go
good.
do it. And I always say, I wanna come into I don't know where I'm gonna be, heaven or hell, I'm not really sure. I wanna come into, the end of my life screeching on in and, like, skidding
Right.
on in, and I'm done, and I did everything I wanna do.
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
regrets. I really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither. I shared this story before in the podcast, but I remember when I used to be in medical, I had a patient. She came in
Mhm,
and I was asking her how she was. She was like, I think in her like mid to late 80s. And I said to her, "Can I ask you a
mhm,
personal question?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Is there any," so what I said, "What's the one thing that you regret?" She
mhm.
said, "I regret not doing what I love, but living my life because somebody else wanted me to do it that way." Like doing things
That's
other people
powerful.
wanted her. That was
Yeah.
so powerful to me
Mhm,
that ever since I've always challenged myself to do something different,
mhm.
something new, right?
And I
Because
would
yeah.
say, yeah, I'm sorry I
No, no, go
interrupted
ahead.
you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Um, as I'm listening to her, and I'm also thinking about your listeners on the podcast, I think a lot of, probably because I'm 56, we're getting there. We have the second career, the second mountain, the golden age career. So we've done so many things and we've hit the top of that mountain. And now it's time. What's that second mountain? What's that? And usually it's climbing to the first mountain is climbing up the ladder or climbing the mountain, whatever analogy you want to use. The second one, I think, is giving back. How do I give back? You know what I mean? So I think that's where a lot of women are that are in my, realm, probably in your realm is. Yeah. What's that second mountain?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it too. Because I'm 50, and I feel the same way. Like I feel like the first mountain. Oh, God, I wish I was more wise. But yeah, the first mountain is so I'm gonna work so hard. I'm gonna be the hardest working person in the room, and I'm like, why did I do that? But you're right. I think the second mountain and maybe even the third and fourth, right? Because the truth is we're always growing and expanding and learning and just stretching and it's so freaking awesome being 50. I didn't know it would be this awesome. And the reason I say that is because, well, I've already been a straight shooter for quite some time, but I'm realizing that I'm really getting very colorful in my old age, if you will. And you know what, another thing, Jill, is we need to stop maybe trying to step on each other to get on top of the mountain, because there's really it's just a metaphor. There really is no top of the mountain. When you get there, you're just looking to keep going. Literally, you're just looking to keep going to that next mountain, if you will, right?
Well, it's really funny. So my daughter moved to California, and to see she is with an outdoor company. So to see, and so she discovered, Joshua Tree and Zion and all these great
That's cool.
National parks. So to see her, she makes me climb a mountain, which is really funny. And the first time I climbed Joshua Tree, it was life-changing, because here I am, this little fashionista, and I'm climbing these rocks that are bigger than a building, and I did it. And that was cool. Amazing to me. And I'll tell you a funny story. So, that game, two truths and a lie.
Yeah.
So I told my friends, I said, well, I'm going to spend a week in an Airstream and climb mountains. And they're like, that's the lie. That's the lie. I'm like, no, it's actually the truth. But let's see, when we did it, February or March, I went to Zion, which was, again, another life challenge. And it might be
so neat.
book 2. But what happens is when you go up the mountain, you climb it, there's 22 switchbacks, and then there's a plateau where, everyone stops. And then there's the summit. So to go up the summit, you need a permit to release them.
Oh, wow.
Responsibility. So one red flag, right?
Right.
So to the summit, you must hold a chain to get up there. And so when you look at it, you're holding the chain, and when you look down, you can fall off this mountain, which is 13,000 feet or so.
Wow.
So you're holding the chain, and I am thinking of every life metaphor, one step in front of the other. Don't look back. Don't look down. Every Oprah episode I've ever thought of, I'm going up and down, and I'm like, wow. And then, it takes a village, because what they also do is as you're going up, they have a group that comes down, and they're like, we're coming down. So you need to hold the chain on either side of your body, and they come down and come over top of you. So I got to know a lot of strangers, but also
very closely.
Together, you have to survive, because you rely on the person in front of you to hold you up, and the person next to you. So amazing metaphors. So I don't know, that might weave into book 2. I don't know. I'm knocking ideas around, but those every life experience, as we just talked about, culminated in that climb.
Right. And that must have been very, very powerful, right? Because you realize, Well, first of all, how freaking strong you really
Mm,
are, right?
yep.
Especially because your life pretty much depended on it, right? I mean, you
Mhm.
signed the waiver, so you know it did. So you know your life depends on it, right?
Yeah.
What you are willing to do and how far you are willing to go.
Yeah. And
That
when
is
you're on
super
that
cool.
summit, first of all, around the universe, and you feel so powerful. And then you also
Mhm.
know you're part of that your energy and you are part of that, and
Mhm.
you have the strength and you're part of this beauty and creation. And then also, yes, the feeling of accomplishment, the feeling of, I just did that. And
I
I'm
just
at the
did that. I
summit.
know.
And as they say, it's not about, where you are, it's the climb, so it's
Right,
not
right.
about it is about getting to the top. But what taught me was the climb.
But when you got up to the top, the beauty of that must have been
Mm,
majestic, right?
majestic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm glad you did that because,
Yeah.
you could have easily said, "No, sweetheart, I'm not doing that."
I'm
Right?
done at
Yeah,
that plateau.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that would have been okay too, because that's still higher than most people, right? So
Mhm,
it's just pretty cool to push yourself to yet another level, yet
mhm.
another thing,
And
right?
what, like we
And
were talking about, fear,
mhm.
that's scary.
Yeah. Yeah, just a bit, just a bit. Find a waiver here. If you fall, you know, yeah,
And
it's all right.
they're like 14 people have died, and I'm like, don't make me 15. Don't make me
Right,
15.
right. Oh my gosh, that's so real. That's so real. But it says a lot about you, Jill. It really, like, as I'm listening to that story, it tells me a lot about you because of already, from the beginning, you hopped on the bus to get to the train to do what it is you had to do, and then went to sell a lot for them, and then actually went and opened up your own space, pouring into women, writing your own book, climbing mountains. I mean, you're just full of grit and tenacity, right? So it shows that you are really going to be impacting a lot of lives, and I'm glad that you're doing this book tour. I'm proud of you for writing your book because yeah, it's a mountain in itself. It really is. I
Mhm,
mean, think about
mhm,
all the things you have to expose, all the things you have to actually know that you may get judged on, because it's
mhm,
true, there are people who will
mhm,
judge, right? But
mhm.
you're in the fashion industry, so judgment is like all the
Well,
time, right?
there's,
It's like
yeah, like
every
water,
piece. Right.
so
Right.
yeah, and
That's
even
awesome.
getting on this, the
Right.
neck is wrinkly, the face, I'm
Right.
like, "Ooh, is that what I look like?" But you know what? Not getting the Botox, not getting this
Good
is
for
what
you.
a
Good for you.
56-year-old woman looks like, and, they're badges of honor. They're
That's
badges of a
right.
life
They
well
are.
lived. Yeah.
Cool for you. That's so awesome. So, Jill, I cannot let you leave without letting my people know where they can, like, where they can shop for your stuff and go. I want to do the live. I'm going to try to catch one of those because that sounds like fun.
Oh, you'll have
So,
so much
yeah,
fun.
I want
So
to try to
catch us
catch
on the
one.
live Thursday at 3 o'clock. We always do it. And then really just go on Behind the Button by Jill, and you'll
Mhm.
enter our world. You'll read my story. You'll have a link to the book. You'll have a link to the live. So enter
So
our
fun.
world through Behind the Button by Jill.com. That's it.
I'm so proud of you, Jill. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you. So
That was
cool.
a super fun talk. I had a great time.
Yeah, this is so fun. Oh man, guys, please
Next
make sure
next
that
time we bring wine, okay?
yeah, heck yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Heck yeah, let's do it. I am stoked that you were here because I mean, even when we met the first time, I just love your spirit. I love your
Oh,
energy. I love what you're doing. I love that you're pouring into women. Like all that is my jam. And I'm
mhm,
really happy that you
yeah.
that you came on. Thank you so
Well,
much.
we
That's so
connected
cool.
just like a button, so thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Guys, make sure that you follow Jill, please. I'm going to make sure to link all of her information below. Don't you just love her? I love her. Anyway, I'm going to go on her website, check out some stuff that she has going on there. Make sure that you do that. And also, hopefully, I'll bump into you on one of the lives because how much fun would that
And
be?
check in, make sure you
Yeah.
check in.
Yes, let's check in. And even when I think I'm traveling soon to go down to Florida and we may pass by Pennsylvania. Maybe I'll pop in and see if I see you in
I
there or
would love
something.
it.
That would be so fun. But thank you guys so much for watching and being here and loving and sharing all that great stuff. I really, really appreciate you. Make sure you follow. I'm going to make sure to put all information. Until next time.